So, have you ever played a game that is so familiar and you can't quite put your finger on it? And you keep playing it and you keep playing it, and you're like, man, this game feels like that other game, but it just doesn't quite feel the same. And there's something missing. There's something massively missing, and you can't figure out what it is. For me, that game lately has been Zenless Zone Zero. And the game that it reminds me of, a lot of actually, is Persona 5. And while it does try to emulate, the open world and deep encounters that you have with the characters and the world around you, it just falls short. And so today I want to talk about Zenless Zone Zero and why I think it was initially painted to be something that it's not, or it was designed to be something that it's not, and why that ultimately may be its downfall. I started playing Zenless Zone Zero out of pure curiosity of what the folks over at Hoyoverse had going on. I stopped playing Genshin Impact right at the initial outbreak of COVID, and like everybody else who got sent home from college, me and the boys play Warzone pretty much 24/7. So I left Hoyoverse in the past. So now some years have gone by, and between the hundreds of Genshin updates, tech tone drama, and the recent release of Honkai Star Rail, I started getting curious again about what Hoyoverse had been cooking up. And so now I decided to play Zenless Zone Zero.
You're under arrest.
Say goodbye to our guests.
Won't go down easily. Still not here yet?
I started playing this game and I was immediately impressed. Off the rip, the performance on my PC was amazing. I was running it on an old hard drive just to see if it was able to keep up with that, and it was holding up pretty well. Animations were extremely fluid. You've got like these, like aside from the jiggle physics, just like all of the animations and the characters and in their movements and idle animations were all really nice and really fluid, and the cutscenes were really sharp. And the biggest note creatively, I think, in this game is that the voice acting in this game is top tier.
I see. So you planned to stop the demolition by blocking the train, but you didn't expect to find a bunch of vision reinforcements. Huh, this means vision is at the point of no return. They'll do whatever it takes to stop the residents from getting out. But the proxy's plan to seize the train could work. Ma'am, you've heard our plan. Now, we have something to ask of you.
Voice acting in this game is top tier. It is absolutely top tier. The characters feel real. They feel organic. They don't feel, as if they're, reading a script in an isolated area. That I do genuinely feel like they put their heart and soul into their performances for this game. And then things started to show up that were disappointing. After the initial presentation, I had gotten ramped up. I was ready. I was ready to fully commit to being a gacha boy and playing the life out of this game. and then the dialogue happened, specifically in the overworld. Now, the problem with that this game has is that, in my opinion, it is trying to piggyback or build off of the success of Persona 5 in the way that Persona 5 has its overworld layout structured, and how it feels like you're actually a high school student or whatever going through your daily life, building connections, helping people out around town, doing all these things. And it's a great concept, but the folks who made Persona 5 have mastered that concept. And unfortunately, the team at Hoyoverse pretty much missed the ball with this one. A lot of the dialogue is extremely bloated. Some of it's voice acted, some of it's not. Some of it doesn't even make sense. It's kind of like it's not even integral to the story. It's just kind of like, hey, like I was enjoying a cup of tea and it was hot kind of dialogue, like just to say it was there. And unlike a lot of the interactions of Persona 5 where they're voice acted really well and you get these great emotions and you get these great feelings from these conversations, Zenless Zone Zero just berates you with dialogue box after dialogue box after dialogue box. And it's just the most needless, most boring explanations of certain parts of the game world. And again, like I get what they were trying to do, but it just falls so flat. Especially when the two main characters who act as you, the proxy of Phaethon, Bell and Wise, right? Like they are just so two-dimensional in comparison to the rest of the cast. Now, initially, Bell has a little bit more flair and character, and Wise is supposed to be, the cool, calm, collected older brother. That's his character. I can get away with that. But after a while, they're just like obviously character avatars, and it just feels so disconnected. Especially when the other characters around them have so much more character and so much more color, and they obviously have like, a background and story that you want to learn about. And it just really dampens the whole mood, especially when you're having to go through all this dialogue. It's hard to get into it. And also bear in mind, like I'm somebody who loves JRPGs. I've read pages and pages of dialogue in JRPGs. I mean, I'm one of those people who also like in anime, like I love the slow world building seasons. Like people get really mad when, there's an anime and it's been nothing but shonen style fighting, banger after banger, week after week, and then they stop for a season and do world building. So I actually love those seasons and think so. So those are some of the best seasons in anime because it really ties the story together. I'm one of those people, but this game just does not do its due diligence when it comes to the overworld, interactions and the dialogue and all of the different things they get you to do. And unfortunately, you have to wade through all this dialogue and just kind of like random conversation to get to the part where the game really does shine. And that point is combat. So combat in Zenless Zone Zero is absolutely amazing. Like I don't think I've played better combat in a gacha game. It like every character has their own feel to them. They've got their own fluid motions, their own animations, slightly different control schemes to each one of them. And stringing together combos, even though it's like automated at some point, it's just so satisfying because like you're sitting there, you're stringing together dodge assists and parry assists and counters and all this other things. And even though it's pretty repetitive, it is just satisfying to watch, just satisfying to look at. And quite frankly, it makes you feel like you're a god. Like it just feels like it's just such a good feeling. There are these moments too where like you just feel like your whole team is in like this flow state and you're just, getting all your dodges and your parries correct. It's just a feel good kickback game in that aspect in regards to combat. And like right now, I think I'm level 20-ish proxy level. So I got to like, I just really opened the game up, but I like pretty much figured this was like with most gacha games, they have a formula and I'd pretty much got an idea of what the formula was going to be. But so I was like, yeah, I could see myself doing this for hours just because it's fun to watch the combat and play the combat. It's fun. I could see maybe after if you put it like 5,000 hours, maybe like some crazy astronomical number like that, maybe it would get a little stale. But even then, it's like switch the characters around. It's all for me at least. It's almost like having a new team, a new game. I love it. Unlike Persona 5 that like has the more turn-based combat system, I think Hoyoverse really nailed it and like just knocked it out of the park with the combat here. Like it's so fun, it's so fluid. You just have to play it. That's the only thing. That's the only way I can describe it. You just have to play it. Only problems with the combat that I've noticed so far that there have been like certain characters I've seen where, and this has been self-reported by Hoyoverse and like other members of the community that like there are certain status effects and stuff that aren't stacking correctly, that they don't apply correctly. But Hoyoverse has been pretty good about promptly, fixing these issues and then rewarding the player base by either compensating us with, the in-game currency, Denny's, or some other currency for, or polychrome, whatever you want to call it, as penance for, them having a mistake or having a bug in the game. And so I think that really goes a long way for them to, like, kudos to them for actually caring, at least for the most part, about issues in the game. With that being said, although they do gift in-game currency to players when they mess up, the in-game economy is right now pretty awful. I'm a free-to-play Andy, okay? I have no qualms or quarrels with people who want to spend money on the game. I don't want to. I don't want to be in financial ruin. I'm not running to max my credit card out and get a $15,000 loan from Navy Federal so I can stay up to date and ranked. I do not. I'm not that guy. I like anime. I like everything going on in the game mostly. I'm going to play it. But as a gacha game, one of the biggest draws is the like gambling like system, right? Where you have your in-game currency and you spend for pulls. Unfortunately, in Zenless Zone Zero, the gacha element is extremely sparse, especially as a free-to-play player. And this, I will say this, it may be because I missed the initial rewards that were given to players at launch, but my God, it's like you pull and you pull and you pull and you pull. And when you finally do get something good or considered good, either A rank, S rank, whatever, it doesn't even feel good because you've pulled so many times. It, like in most games, there's usually like a formula, right? Like you can usually tell, like, oh, if I spend this type of currency, I get more for my buck, or if I do this and I get more for what I put in versus what I put out. And that's how it's usually supposed to be. It's supposed to be just enough to make you keep wanting to go for pulls. But at the same time, as a free-to-play player, you can hardly get any pulls in this game. Like, it's insane. Like, you will sit there and do story mission after commission after, random side quests. You will do all this stuff, and it's like the game does not want to give you any polychrome. And if they do, it gives you just enough to where after you do 5 or 6 things in a row, keep in mind, you're sitting through like sometimes 30, 40 minutes plus of dialogue in between these interactions and missions or whatever for you to get 20 to 30 polychrome. 20 to 30 polychrome. Now keep in mind, it costs 160 polychrome to do one pull. To do one pull or to convert your polychrome into master tapes to even do a pull. I don't see this part of the game keeping new players for long. Especially if you're like me, who's going to be representative of most of the people playing these games who are just hopping on it, wanting to play the game and not trying to swipe their credit card every 5 minutes. Like, it's pretty predatory. They give you just enough to get 1 or 2 pulls in probably like a hour to hour and a half-ish play session. And then you have to go and grind more missions just to get 3 or 4 more pulls. And it just feels like super grindy and super not fun. That's the whole point of the gacha games, right? It's all the bright lights. It's all the, oh, you got this and you got this and you got that and you got that. And it's just like, it's almost like they forgot about that part of the game after they put so much effort into the combat and the voice acting and the stylization of the characters. It's kind of ridiculous because it's like it's the whole point of the game is to be, hey, spend money. But you can't incentivize new players to spend money if they can barely get anything for free. Because then it's blatantly obvious that you want to just gouge for as much money as possible. And again, I know this is basically that type of game, and a lot of people who play these games will probably give me hate and be like, "Oh, well, just spend the money, just swipe your credit card." But like, no, that's not fair. That's not fair. I'm not saying it should be fair that if you spend $1,000 and I spend nothing, we should get the same thing. I'm just saying at least give us pulls so they can feel like I'm playing the game, whether it be at a slower rate or not. Right now, it's like it's either you get nothing or you spend money. That's what it feels like, and they really need to address that. And honestly, I played mobile games that have better gacha systems than this, where even just doing daily tasks and doing everyday things give you enough things to get a decent amount of pulls. And yes, it does take you a little bit longer, but it's still rewarding. So I do want to put that out there because, like, I've played a lot of mobile games. A good one, for example, is like F-Class Adventure, right? Like, this is like a idle style game, and it gives you pretty much a decent amount of pulls. Now, there's certain aspects of the game that are low-key paywalled off, but it's still fun to play the game because you can still do a reasonable amount without having to wait 5, 6, 7 hours of just straight grinding to play the game. On a brighter note, I want to touch back on the characters. I do want to touch on this because the characters in this game are exceptional. Besides the two proxy characters that I mentioned that serve as your player avatar, the genuine chemistry between the different groups in the game, like the Cunning Hares and the Red Fang Gang, all of that kind of stuff is pretty well polished to me, and I do want to know more about these characters, and that's what's honestly keeping me playing right now. It's not the gacha element of the game. It's hardly the combat at times. More so that I want to find out the lore behind this world where Ether is turning people into hollows and doing all this kind of stuff right there, right? And it's like, because these points are so strong and because it does feel real, even though like at times, like, you know, the hollows and the Ether don't seem like a threat, they seem very lighthearted. It is still intriguing because of how interesting the characters are and how well voice acted they are. You do kind of care about the groups. You want to see where they're going. And I think they've done an amazing job with that. I do think that point of the game is good enough to keep it running. But again, for a game that's, in my opinion, trying so hard to be like Persona 5, it probably won't be enough because Persona 5 had these magical encounters, whether it be between the characters, the main characters themselves, or other, you know, random characters in the overworld, all the different little side quests and different little missions that you could do, all the different lives of students and things like that. Those were real, genuine moments that you have in that game. And coupled with that, some pretty fair and fun gameplay as long as you strategize and don't just try to, you know, DPS tank everything. Like, it was genuinely such a great experience. And that's why I can't get that comparison on my mind, is because it's like, I feel like I'm playing a clone of that game that just doesn't quite get what made it so magical to begin with. And again, and that's where I say, like, some parts of this game feel like a AAA, quadruple A even experience. And then others feel like they were just, you know, tacked on at the last minute, you know, trying to, you know, either ride the coattails or piggyback off of this other game, Persona 5, in my opinion, that was, you know, massively successful. And then you throw in some, you know, jiggling breasts or whatever, and you've got a gacha game. You know, like, it's kind of disheartening to see, like, some parts of this game where you can see there's truly labors of love in the combat and in the voice acting and the stylization of the characters. And then other parts where they're just throwing text boxes in there just to have text boxes. It's kind of sad to see that. Cause I want this game to do well. I want this game to do good. Because despite all of the negative things I have said in this review, I want this game to succeed. I want to keep playing this game. I want to come home and still want to play this game. I would love to stream this game as much as I want, as much as I have been, honestly. It's just the pulling, as far as being a free-to-play player, is horrible. And there's no amount of jiggle physics that can make me stay to deal with such a horrible pull system and drop rate, when the whole point of the gacha game is to keep me going for pulls and playing longer and maybe eventually considering buying stuff because I'm having so much fun with the game. But if I have to sit through thousands of pages of dialogue, I have to run around the city doing just random, ticking things off of a scratch sheet missions, and then getting nothing in return for it, it's going to make people leave. It's almost made me leave. That's why I'm making this review, because I want to see this game do well. I don't know if a dev or I don't know if anybody in the community will ever actually watch this video, but I think this is something we need to bring up as like players of this game, that it's so close to being as good as the game that it's trying to be, but it needs to get so it just needs to be polished. It just needs to be polished. Because so far, like, this could be one of the greatest Gacha games I've ever played. But again, Hoyoverse just needs to smooth out the rough edges, and otherwise, this is a very polished game in my opinion. So yeah. If you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know down in the comments if you like Zenless Zone Zero, and if you don't, tell me why or why not. And yeah, thanks for watching. Mills is signing off.